Centre, Northern Southwest Australia. Venerable is also teaches regularly in Thailand, Malaysia and Singapore, as well as in Brisbane, Coffs Harbour, Blue Mountains Insight Meditation Centre. So with that, we are so happy today with Bhante to teach us the path, the track of happiness. Bhante, let us put our palms together and say sadhu 3 times. Invite Bhante. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Thank you very much for the introduction. The title of the talk is slightly modified. It'll be The Trap of Happiness. Will include that, or make reference to that. We won't go into talking too much about the trap of happiness, but I'll refer to it as I go along. What I want to present first is the 8 worldly conditions, also known as the worldly winds. These express the duality of our existence in this world. These 8 worldly conditions, 8 worldly winds. And like a pendulum, they perpetually swing back and forth. We're caught between these worldly conditions. 4 are desirables, 4 are undesirables. Everybody experiences these 4 pairs of opposites in the course of their lives. Now, I don't know, I'm sure you're familiar with them, yes? You've heard of them. The first one is gain and loss, I mean, that would be with the financial meltdown. I'm afraid that would be high on many people's agenda, with gain and loss. So, then there's fame and infamy, or honour and dishonour. Perhaps that's not so, well, there's a pair. Honour and dishonour, perhaps people are not so subject to that. And everybody might have their 5 minutes of fame, as it's said, but certainly infamy, I don't know. Then there's praise and blame, which is it's an experience one has all the time. Like somebody's great webmaster of BuddhaNet.net, and other people criticise me for a month being on the internet, or so you get this praise and blame. You get these 8 qualities, positive and negative certainly, but what I want to look at, or lead up to, is how to work with them, how to maintain balance and equanimity, whether rather than being polarizing one way or the other. And especially as regards, because if one is caught in this seesawing, liking, disliking, gain and loss, of course one is essentially having a difficult time. One is in distress. Distress is really the root meaning of the Pali term dukkha. It's distress, unsatisfactoriness. So one is caught in that dukkha, is some distress in one's life. So as you would know, there are 3 levels of dukkha, There's this everyday, ordinary dukkha. This is where we experience these worldly conditions in our everyday life. So we have these psychological difficulties. Then there's the next level is viparinama dukkha, when change. Now at the moment we're going through change, which is also very much a worldly wind. We talk about climate change, but change is natural. I don't know about climate change, it's more like climate damage. It will change. It always will change. Climate, especially. Since the dinosaurs, even further back, there's always been change. It always will be. It's the most self-evident truth in the universe. It's change. So we can be comfortable with change, but it's change. Viparinama dukkha has also been called the dukkha of happiness, because happiness, while it's in the American Constitution that we pursuit of happiness, but we cannot sustain happiness. You know, it's one of the worldly conditions. There's happiness, and the flip side is unhappiness. So if we just seek happiness, it's in people who understandably want to popularize Buddhism, make it more palatable, rather than always presenting the fact of dukkha and suffering and very negative, class of empty approach. They want to say that the glass is half full. So they will say there is a certain unnamed teacher who comes through here as well, who would say not the Four Noble Truths of suffering, but the Four Noble Truths of happiness. Well, there you go. You know, it's make people feel good, because that's essentially what this notion of happiness is, to feel good. But can you sustain it? It's not natural to, you know. What we need to come to maturity, or be mature enough to face reality. And when we see, when we're inside into things as they actually are, then we will build up insight, understanding. It will mature into equanimity. In fact, you would be well aware, I'm sure, of the Bojangas, the 7 factors of enlightenment. And while we have the maturing factor, there is equanimity. So the factor before the actual breakthrough of realization, the mind has to become stabilized and equanimous. Of course, there's a stage in the insight meditation knowledges where we call Sankarupeka, where the mind is having experienced dukkha yanas, which are not just psychological, then the mind stabilizes and is equanimous and accepting both the difficult conditions that arise in the body or mind, and not getting enthralled or excited or attached to pleasant things, you see, not getting caught in pleasant, unpleasant, liking, disliking, you see. The mind becomes comes into a equipoise, you know, a balancing. I would like to see, I would interpret the Buddha's middle path as much as this balancing mind. It can maintain, in spite of difficult conditions, it will still maintain its equipoise. So there's homeostatic balance in the mind. And that requires maturity. Now, it's all very easy to say, you know, and I'm sure you've heard much of this before. Attended many talks, we've studied Buddhist teachings and texts, but what about the doing? You know? So there are different approaches to Buddhist practice. There is one model of the mind, which might illustrate that nicely, which is the mind has its 3 levels, isn't it? And the different practices can be illustrated this way. you've just taken precepts by precepts, so that's the